All right, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs add another commitment in the 2025 class. This time it's four-star defensive back Rashawn Dinkins, who flipped today from Georgia Tech over to Georgia. He is an athletic, versatile defensive back from Warner Robins High School in Middle Georgia. Of course, his teammate, five-star edge Isaiah Gibson, the number one edge in the country, is also committed to Georgia. So this is a player that Georgia had on their radar for a long time. They officially offered on September, I believe it was 6th. So earlier this year, he's having a really strong senior season. And dude's just a ball hawk. He's got a nose for the football. He had, I think, 8 interceptions as a sophomore, 3 last year. He was region, I think, defensive player of the year. Guys stopped throwing his way because he knows how to make a play on the ball. He can help in the run game. He reacts quickly against the run. He stuffs those running lanes coming down from the secondary, and he knows how to hit. He can tend to lean with his helmet a little bit, which might get him into some trouble at the next level with the targeting rules, but he's coming for you, and he's going to hit behind his pads, and he's going to try to deliver a sound physical football hit. So this is a competitor. He's tough. He loves to work. He loves the game. So he fits Georgia's culture and environment from that standpoint. But the guy just makes a lot of plays. I couldn't find his updated stats over on Max Preps. But if you watch the film, you know, he's active. He's disruptive. He's making plays against the pass. He's making plays against the run. He's tackling. He's fundamentally sound there. But he can turn and run with receivers on the outside. He's strong and reliable in zone defense. He covers a lot of ground down the field. And again, he plays the football in the air. He's looking for the football. He's, I think he does a good job of staying with those faster receivers, although he runs really well, but he's 6'2", like 185. Not 6'2". I think he's like 5'11". He's around 6 foot. He's not 6'2". I was thinking of someone else for a split second there, but I do think that he looks bigger and more physical than that. He's got some muscle on him, but he does fly around the field. He's got football speed. I don't know exactly what he times in as far as his, without the pads, just running in shorts type, but he does bring some football speed, and you have to play fast if you want to play for Kirby Smart and play in his secondary, and that's what he does. He's the number 33 safety prospect, number 346 overall, so that ranking is not going to excite a lot of Georgia fans. I think Georgia fans are hearing about this news, and they're saying, okay, a 4-star safety from Middle Georgia, Warner Robins, comes from a winning program, plays on both sides of the ball. He runs the ball for them. Again, he's a natural athlete, really good athlete who has good instincts in coverage and in the secondary. Again, he has no problem playing the run and being physical, but he knows how to catch the football and secure it and leap up in the air and make plays on the ball. The guy's a playmaker. And again, as a sophomore, he was picking off passes left and right, and he started to become a big name. And Georgia always liked him, but they always had guys higher on their board, from what I've gathered. But they said, you know what? It's kind of been a revolving door in the secondary. They lost a commitment from Rashad Johnson Jr., who I guess flipped to Texas A&M, if I remember correctly. 5-star cornerback Shamari Earls. I think he's a 5-star. If not, dude's damn good. He is elite. He flipped to Michigan last week. They got Chauncey Gilbert on board, who they were up and down with throughout his recruitment. So they're just putting it together now. And it doesn't look like they're going to have a 5-star, safety or cornerback, but just look at what they did in the last class. Remember, 5-star cornerback Ellis Robinson, 5-star safety KJ Bolden. That's used against Georgia on the recruiting trail. And those are really good players. So Georgia it wasn't necessary to add elite talent. You want to, that's the goal, right? You want to go out and recruit elite talent, but it was going to be tougher to do that in this cycle when you look and see what happened in the previous recruiting cycle. But they do have some really good players in the secondary right now. He's their 4th defensive back commitment in this class. They've got 4-star Todd Robinson, who does a little bit of everything for Valdosta. Really good player. 4-star cornerback Chauncey Gilbert, another guy who can play both ways. That's kind of a theme for guys in the secondary. You have to be athletic, and a lot of these guys play both ways. Todd Robinson quarterback, running back, receiver, special teams, safety, cornerback, wherever he's lined up for Valdosta, he's going to make plays. And Rashawn Dinkins is that way too. He can help you on special teams. He can play some middle linebacker in a different way. He can play on the outside if you need him to. He can play safety, obviously, multiple positions in the secondary. But again, he runs the ball really well for them and does a lot because he's a ball player, but he's also a really good athlete. So he does bring a lot to the table. He's a max effort kid, loves the game, loves practice, loves to compete. So he's got everything from that standpoint too. And again, the ranking is not gonna, have your jaw dropping, right? If you barely cover or follow recruiting, not super to be excited about from a Georgia fan's perspective, especially because they just offered the kid like 2 months ago. But he's having a really big season, and if you live down in Middle Georgia and you know high school football, you've heard of this kid because he makes a lot of plays. Georgia pushed for a flip, and they got him. This was a really big deal for Georgia Tech getting him on board. I remember when he committed to Georgia Tech, I believe like June 2nd or so. It was early in June, if I remember correctly. And I'm thinking, this guy's a good player. And I've written about him for Prep Red Zone, covering those like under-the-radar type of prospects. And he wasn't under the radar very long. Offers started coming in, committed to Georgia Tech, and Georgia said, you know what? We want a guy that wants to be here, that they can also afford, right? I mean, there's only so much in the NIL fund, and a lot of the reasons some of these guys are looking elsewhere is because they're seeing other bigger, possibly, opportunities elsewhere. So, they go take advantage of that, right? So at the same time, if most of the funds are going towards elite defensive linemen and a big-time offensive lineman or two, or a number one linebacker, number one edge, then yeah, there's only so much you can have for a few guys in the secondary that you're trying to add on in these last final months. So Georgia's got 24 commitments. Again, this is their fourth defensive back commitment. Jalen Morgan's a four-star safety from Tennessee. And then guys I talked about, Todd Robinson, four-star athlete at Valdosta, and Jonte Gilbert out of Douglas High School in the Atlanta area. He can run the ball and catch for them on offense too, but he is a long athletic. He's more of the 6'1", 6'2" guy, or as I think Dinkins is more of the 5'11", 6 foot around there, which is perfectly fine. But again, this is a guy who really flashes, and every once in a while he's going to pop you. You keep watching the film. Interception here, big hit here, tackle in the backfield here. I mean, he's fast. He reacts quickly. He's a smart kid, right? And that you have to be smart to understand, what Kirby Smart and that staff wants them to do in the secondary. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of mixing and matching. There's a lot of cross-training in the secondary, and this is a guy who can do that, I think, naturally. He's smart, he's athletic, and I think he's up for the challenge. So, again, a solid, middle-of-the-road, four-star kid, top 350 prospect in the country, top, I think, 50, 60 player in Georgia. I've got to go back and look at my own rankings where I have him, but I do think he's in my top 50 players in the state. Really good player, works hard, knows how to win, comes from a tough program, and he's going to be playing alongside Isaiah Gibson in Athens. So really, really tough loss for Georgia Tech. I do think they're doing a good job of getting a lot of these guys on board. But, it was a miss here because this kid said, hey, I'd rather go play for Kirby Smart and the Dogs. Thanks a lot, Brent Key. Really appreciate it, but I've got a bigger and better opportunity in Athens. I'm going to go jump on that. So, really nice commitment. Georgia's picked up several big-time commitments this fall. I think more could be on the way. You've got Chase Linton on the edge out of North Atlanta. I think he could be close to jumping on board. And we'll see, Justice Terry decides to jump on board sooner than expected. I think another cornerback would not be out of the question. I think another wide receiver would not be out of the question. And again, I think they're going to add one more edge guy, one more defensive lineman, maybe another offensive lineman. They don't need to. And maybe another quarterback, but we'll see. At the end of the day, I'm not sure Georgia knows exactly the number they want. It's just about adding really good players and players that they can, number one, afford, right? Because that's a big deal. It's legal now. Kids are looking at that stuff. So if they can win over a kid financially and say, hey, we can also develop you better than anyone in the country, they're going to add good players. And this is a really good player that Georgia fans may not know a ton about because, again, Georgia didn't really offer him until September, but he's been on their radar a while. 4-star defensive back from the state of Georgia, flipping from Georgia Tech to Georgia, giving the Dogs their 24th commitment in the 2025 class. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. You could read all about him over on Dawg Post, so make sure you're reading that free story. I'll see you over on the website. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the next video.